What's going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and in this video I want to show you how I catch giants on a Texas rig, but it has to be one of the most difficult ways that I fish a Texas rig. Stay tuned. So a Texas rig, I love this bait. I catch more fish on this rig than probably any other rig in bass fishing, mainly because I fish it all the time. But the way that I fish it when I have to catch giants, and when I say giants, I have caught some big ones in the last 4 or 5 days, just really big fish. I'll let you even take a look at a few of them. Giant. Might be the biggest bass I ever caught out of this lake. Whew. Who'd have thunk? And the way that I've been fishing it is difficult for most people. It takes patience, and it takes even more patience. The way I've got it rigged up is it is a, I'll have Jordan zoom in a little bit. I've got a 4/0 Gamakatsu finesse flipping hook, and it's a straight shank hook with a little keeper right here. I've got a 1/4 ounce tungsten weight with a little bit of a peg right here, just holding that tungsten weight close to that worm. And the way you fish it is super slow. And I promise you, I can tell you that over and over and over again. Fish it slow, and you will not be fishing it slow enough. So let's get out on the water, and I'm going to show you how I fish it super slow. All right, so I get out on the water, get ready to show you guys how to do this, and of course it starts to rain, but we'll work our way through this. When a lot of times this question gets asked in my Friday Night Lives, and the question is, how do you catch big fish, or how do you get bites from big fish? And my answer is always the same: either move something really fast and erratic, or super slow, and you'll catch big fish. Yeah, you'll catch a few big fish in the middle ground where a lot of people fish, but I'm telling you, you fish super slow, and I don't know what happens to a big bass, but it gets dumb all of a sudden, and it will grab that worm or grab whatever you're fishing. So first thing I do is I'm gonna throw it out, and I'm gonna let it sink to the bottom, and I call this the 5-minute game. And the reason I call this a 5-minute game is it will take me 5 minutes to get that bait back to the boat and make another cast. And it all depends on what happens during that retrieve as to how fast it comes in, and I'm going to explain that. I got a 1/4 ounce weight, which forces me to fish it slow anyway, because if I move it fast, it's going to come off the bottom, and I want that weight to stay on the bottom. Okay? This does not work in silted ponds. You have to be in something that's got hard clay bottoms, or even a spot in your silted pond that is hard, like a spot that has a lot of logs or just a hard bottom or whatever. But I'm going to drag it on the bottom, and I'm just going to keep dragging it until I bump into something. And that's why the tungsten weight and the fluorocarbon line is so critical, and a good quality sensitive rod is so critical, because you can feel that bait coming up against something. And I want you to see how slow I'm fishing it. I'm literally crawling it an inch at a time. You barely see my reel move when I'm lifting my rod, and it's just whoop, and I let it sit. Pull it, and I let it sit. And I let it sit for 2, 3, 4 seconds. And then when I bump into something, I'll shake it a little bit, and I'll work it even slower, half inches at a time, just dragging it. How many times have you seen a worm move at Mach 3? You haven't. Seriously, just fish it super slow. Just pulled over top of something, got hung on like a rock or something on the bottom. I pulled over top, and I just imagined in my head it just flopped over, and it's now sitting right on the other side of that rock. I didn't move it for 3 or 4 seconds, just set it there. And a lot of times when you bump over a rock like that, it gets the fish's attention because that tungsten hits the rock, and then it comes over to investigate and sees that worm sitting right next to that rock. So now I'm going to drag it a little bit more, but again, I'm only dragging it a couple inches at a time, letting it sit. Couple inches and letting it sit, just dragging it. And the more things I hit, the slower I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to spend a lot of time around all the little things I'm bumping into, especially on a flat or a point or something that doesn't seem like it has a whole lot of stuff on it. If there's a log or a stump or rocks or scattered rocks are my favorite. But anyway, if there's anything on there, the bass is going to be located on that one little individual isolated cover. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to find sometimes. But I'm not lifting that little 1/4 ounce weight off the bottom. Just dragging it. Lift up. I just made another cast just a little bit further over. Let it sink to the bottom. Let it sit there just a little bit, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Give it a little shake. Some fish just jumped right there. Slowly drag it. So hard to do. The reason I say it's such a hard way to fish a Texas rig is because most people don't have the patience. I used to not have, I couldn't do it. I didn't have them. Just could not fish it this way. I just bumped a rock. I'm just shaking the rod. And I'm trying to just barely pull it over that rock. And just kind of dragging it. And this isn't just for boat fishing. Do this when you're bank fishing. Do it from a kayak, from whatever. But I'm telling you, slow catches big fish. Now, of course, the big fish have to be there. But it's how I get them to bite. And a lot of times you barely feel the bite. A lot of times it's just because they're so big, that worm gets in their mouth really easy, and it's just a whoop. And you might feel just a little on the end of your rod, just a little tug. Maybe not anything at all, and you pick it up and it feels like you've got a little bit of grass on it, but that grass is going just kind of, you can feel that tail of that big fish just kind of swimming away, and that's all you feel. And then you lay down, you bow to the fish, make a couple turns down, you say, all right, brother, and you set the hook and you set it hard. And it is, come on, is that a fish? No, it's not. So what just happened there is it was working its way up a big rock, and it was just getting a little bit snagged as it was sliding along that rock. Imagine it sliding along a piece of concrete, and because the boat was swinging away from it, it felt like a bite. But I held the rod still to see whether something just was moving it or swimming off with it, something a little bit different, and it wasn't. Okay, I just got over that rock and let it sink down. Sliding it up the next rock. I got a little rock pile in front of me. Sliding it up the next rock. But the funny thing is you think that if they bite like this, if the bite is so hard and so difficult that you have to fish so slow, you'd think that they wouldn't get the bait in their mouth good. But man, they get it pretty deep. You don't have to worry too much. I love that. The reason I'm using that Gamakatsu finesse flipping hook is because it's got a lighter wire, but it's a lot stiffer, so I can get away with using it and not flexing it or bending it out on a heavy hook set. But with a kayak, you've got to have a real thin wire hook to get a good penetration a lot of times, just because the kayak goes towards the fish when you set the hook. So I'm not saying you have to use that hook. I'm using that hook because I'm in a kayak. Slow drag. So my best 5 fish in the last 7 days, 6 days, and I haven't fished that many days, but 4 days I've been fishing. My best 5 fish, if I had to guess the weight, I had one that was 9.5, I had 2 over 8, and I had 2 7. Well, one was 6 pounds 15 ounces, and the other one was 7.5. Giants, doing exactly what I'm doing here. It's hard. You've got to concentrate. You've got to be willing to do it, and I promise you that if you fish a Texas rig this way long enough on a lake that has big fish and fishing around the fish, you're going to catch a big one. I promise. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit the little bell for notifications if you haven't done that yet, but more importantly, get out on the water and introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. Now go out and go fishing and have a great day. We'll see you.